That is what a communication system is. How can we understand these communication systems a little better? And for that, I'd like you to turn to this diagram. Whoops, that's embarrassing. Never mind. I want you to turn to this diagram, which is at the bottom of the news post. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, and let's talk about what a communication system is. So this diagram is called the communication system framework. It's right out of the syllabus, so I didn't make it up. Though I think I did pick these clip arts, but anyway. So you do need to know this is really important. The good thing is it's quite simple, I think. It's quite easy to pick up. There are 3 layers to it, as you can see. We're going to spend later lessons digging into what each of these layers mean. For instance, you might look at this and think, I have no idea what that's referring to. And there's a good reason for that. Here's the first important thing that I want you to get about this diagram, okay, this framework. The application level, can you see that? This is the one where we sit, okay? This is the only level that most of us should actually perceive when we work with communication systems, okay? So, example, you're on Facebook, right? And chat window comes up, and you're typing a message to a friend. So you're interacting with an application there. Strictly speaking, you're interacting with 2. You're interacting with your browser, and you're interacting with Facebook, okay? So 2 applications. You can see them. You're typing into them, right? If someone said to you, hey, what are you using right now? You might say, I'm using Chrome and I'm using Facebook. These are the applications you can see, okay? In the same way, the message's destination, the person it's going to, can also see the same applications. Maybe they're on their phone, right? So they're using Safari, something like that, okay? But the applications, they can see it. So the users and participants are up here, and this is all we're meant to really be able to see. At least if the system is doing its job. However, underneath the surface, right, so picture like an iceberg, right, all of this stuff is happening to ensure that this actually works properly, okay? So what's happening in here? Communication, control, and addressing. We won't go into detail, but all I want to get across to you is this level is about the software that's underneath these applications, okay? This is a software level, mainly, okay? So things like when you go to Facebook, right? The address of Facebook is not just facebook.com. It's https:// right? What's all that HTTPS business? Well, it's to do with all this extra software, right? Which makes sure that these applications can work, okay? So there's software in here which you can't see. We'll talk more about those a bit later on. And then further under that, there's what we call the transmission level. You might also call it the hardware level, okay? So if you like, you've got 3 levels here, not just these names, but an easy way to remember is people, software, and hardware, okay? It's not the best way to understand it, because actually there is some hardware in this level, and actually there is some software in this level, okay? But it's sort of a rough, basic way to understand it, okay? Transmission level gets at the stuff that you can hold with your hands, that you could touch and poke your fingers at, okay? So stuff like your modem. Stuff like, say, the antenna in your phone. All of the towers that are out there which provide reception. All of the wires that go underneath the ground and along the sea floor which provide us with internet connectivity, okay? These are all the transmitters and receivers that we're talking about, hardware, okay? Now, just this last bit I want to refer to, switching and routing. What's switching and routing? Routing, or taking a route, right, is about the path to get from one place to another. Okay? So just like, this is convenient, not entirely on purpose. When you go in a car from one place to another, okay, if your journey is anywhere longer than, say, 5 minutes, at least on Sydney roads, there's got to be multiple ways to get there, right? Some ways you can take the main road, sometimes you can take back streets, sometimes you can take lots of different back streets or different main roads, and you've got all these different ways that you can navigate through it, right? In the same way, when data goes from a sender, a source, to a receiver, to its destination, okay? There's lots of different ways to go. And that's what this process, switching and routing, is talking about, okay? When we talk about A to B, that's very simplified. Okay? Just like when you're really traveling on the internet, there are many different ways to go. Okay? Now, I've sort of glossed over this idea of a medium because we've talked about it before. Medium just means in between. That's why we have small and large, and the in-between size we call medium, right? So medium is whatever is in between all of these paths. So for example, the wires, right? Or the wireless link, okay? That's the medium, right? Right now, the medium between us is the air, right? The way I, the source, am communicating to you is my transmitter, which is, what's the hardware that I'm using right now? It's almost my mouth. My mouth is actually not doing really the work. Well, actually, probably the brain is involved, but I think it's probably closer to here, which actually composes the message and creates it. Yeah, well, in my throat, there are these two guys called my vocal cords, right? And they do this weird thing which physically transmits a signal. It vibrates the air, right? And it goes through the medium of the air, switching around in, not too much here because it's quite direct, right? But it arrives at your receiver, right? Which is, be specific. I'm trying to talk to you, right? But what's the physical hardware thing? It's a bone in your ear, right? Which receives the vibrations in the air that I'm sending out, and they get to your brain eventually, and that's what's going on. Okay? So this framework works for any communication systems, whether it's electronic or non-electronic, like I'm talking about now. Okay?